Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Followers, likes, double tap. Now they control your life.
Welcome back to the 817 podcast. This is Jimmy here with EJ, and
what's up?
We're excited to get into the news this week. We feel like locally it was maybe a little bit of a slow news week. Sometimes it is, especially around the holidays, but there's a lot going on nationally, statewide, and some wins and losses locally that we want to cover this week. How are you feeling?
Good. I think it's a slow news week, but it's more of we're going through a social experience of human behavior. So even though it's slow, it's kind of all pieces together, from COVID cases to how we travel for holidays, to then, what is the post response to just such a heavy presidential election that was emotionally stimulating, made people get up and actually go vote. What happens after that? Do people just get tired and they feel like I did my part, or am I going to stay involved? So there's a lot, I think, that from these next couple weeks that ends 2020 is going to create a springboard going somewhere in 2021.
Somewhere.
I don't know, good or bad, but that's the experiment I feel like we're living as we finish out 2020.
Yeah. So we'll start off with some national news. We're here recording this on Sunday morning, and as of pretty recently, it looks like a second stimulus bill is going to be passed through the Senate. Obviously, it was passed in the House back in May, but, good old Mitch McConnell likes to drag his feet, and here we are at the end of the year. It looks like it'll be a $600 per person stimulus check for individuals under 75,000 or families under 150,000. And then for unemployment assistance, it looks like it'll be an extra $300 a week, plus more help coming for small businesses. What some of the big things, I would say the two biggest sticking points that were obviously left out were for Republicans, they wanted basically a blanket immunity for corporations around if people got sick at work. For Democrats, they wanted to create a stream of income for local and state governments that allowed for more funding, like what we have seen in Fort Worth with the small business assistance programs, being able to provide masks and PPE, etc. I know one of those things sounds better to me than the other. What are your thoughts? This is pretty new and fresh. I would say mildly exciting, and also fairly disappointing at the numbers of what we're actually looking to be given, especially for people that are really in need right now. Yeah,
the House budget was over 2.
I think it was like 2.1 trillion.
Yeah. And so it's definitely underwater of a stimulus. And I mean, it's tough. I mean, you're looking at Texas unemployment. We're still very high. We're actually now going up. We're looking at and what's frustrating about it too is what's cool living in Fort Worth, $600 could go a far way. It could pay for some things. I mean, that can go some places. But to me, what's also tough is just I don't feel like it tells the whole story of how hard it is to thrive today. I mean, I think you're having a lot of people where the unemployment is not being seen because they have like these delivery jobs.
Yeah.
That they're not even full time. There's no benefits. There's no support.
Yeah.
But yet, sure, they're having a job because they're delivering from their personal car, traveling boxes back and forth. It's crazy amount of young kids, specifically kids of color I see stop at the front of my house with boxes to drop off. And what also it's like, my lane is education, and you're seeing that a recent report came out in December 10th that of the graduating class of 2020, we have had a 30% drop in college enrollment of low-income high school students. So what's happening, right, is that my family needs money, right? My family needs help. I can go get one of these delivery jobs. I'm creating meaning in my life by, I'm here helping my family. What's the point of sitting on a Zoom class?
Yeah.
And like, what, bad connection. This doesn't feel like it's moving the needle in my life. Where driving around, putting miles on my car, delivering packages does. And I just think that's one example of the long-term ramifications we're going to see from COVID and not actually supplying a true blanket of stimulus to actually make sure we make the right long-term decisions for families. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really quick way to continue to broaden the gap of inequality is, even though I think we live in a world that is maybe coming around to the idea that you don't need a college degree for, most jobs, I would say. If you put in front of most like major corporations, if you put two resumes and one of them says, I went to college, and one of them says, I've been delivering packages for 4 years, like we know who's going to get a foot in the door and who's not. I think that is a really long-term ramification of this. I think another big piece of this is, especially recently, we've seen a lot of the corruption from the first round of PPP loans. So like it came out recently that a fake nonprofit in Florida tried to buy an $8.6 million home near Orlando with their PPP funding, and it wasn't discovered until they tried to buy an $8 million house that they're a fake organization that with ties to a certain administration that received $8 million of funds. We're also seeing a lot of large churches that are coming out with like $5-6 million worth of PPP funds. And yet they have also been like rejecting a lot of people coming to them with needs. So
you see the one about, I could have swore it was like a North Dallas evangelical channel. And they bought a private jet right after they got so much millions. They gave the PPP back. Like flex.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I was like, we got our PPP loan and like spent it really fast. Like these guys are out here like, oh yeah, I'll just give my $4.5 million back. Like I'll take that.
It's not that I returned the jet because I need the PPP money. No, it's just like, oh no, guys, I'm a good guy. Here, you caught me. Here's the money back. Like, really, like, and so here's the other thing I'm thinking we're going to get in. Like, what's happening too is because this stimulus. I mean, we'll see where it goes. The vaccines are out, right? We're seeing Tarrant County has had them distributed across the hospitals. Teachers and older people, they're Abbott saying March, kind of get there. And so, but my worry is that this doesn't go far enough, and then people get irritable, people get desperate, and I don't know, and with going to Donald Trump trying to still rig the election and people being angry, I don't know what could, the first Q1 of 2020 could look like. That just really pissing people off because they're mad too. And so now who knows? I mean, you saw I know we were going to talk about maybe that later down the road in the loss, but someone vandalizing some dude's house because he has a Black Lives Matter. How's that guy, how's that guy, who did that? What's going on in his life? What irritable frustrations make you so angry to vandalize and burn down two people's cars? On Elm Street, I think, or something like that. And then spray paint Trump 2020 on the garage. Like, we can create a lot of angry individual people who could be upset. That thing then also like deals with this martial law crap that Donald Trump is floating. in
Yeah, and
conversation.
even talking about the vaccine, there's been some controversy this week. First off, positive news that Moderna's vaccine was approved for emergency authorization on Friday. The positive thing about Moderna is that a lot of high-up Republican stakeholders also have financial stake in Moderna, which means that they bought a lot more of that vaccine than they did Pfizer's. And we're seeing that in places like Florida. Florida hasn't had anyone vaccinated yet, and the governor is saying that that's because Pfizer didn't give them their vaccine. What really happened is that the governor canceled all of their orders from Pfizer. Pfizer said that they've got 2 million more doses just sitting in their warehouse, but they haven't been given direction on where to send it. So we've got a vaccine. We've got a second vaccine now that I think will actually be put to better use because of the financial stake that a lot of our leaders have in it, which is both a major bummer. Also, it's like, I'm going to take what I can get right now, you know, like whatever I don't really care that much anymore.
I feel like that's how you meant about everything. We were talking about the Loeffler lady.
Yeah.
And we were like, good thing she didn't win, but the other guy still sucks. But we're just good thing we're like, now we're just dealing with like crazy far right people. It's like, as long as it's like, they're just right people, we're like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's our new expectation.
Well, and even members of Congress and a number of members of government were given the vaccine late this week. These are the same people that have been spitting conspiracy theories about COVID, are still spitting conspiracy theories about the election, still spitting conspiracy theories about the vaccine. Yet they're out here getting vaccinated before our frontline healthcare workers are. So to your point about angry people, there's going to be a lot happening in these next couple months that are going to continue to push people to the brink, push people to a more desperate spot.
Yeah, no, two things about what you were Moderna. One thing about, you know, the entrepreneurial story of Moderna is like they went public in like 2018 with like no product. They just like, we know how to do some copying of some mRNA process and approach that we believe can work.
Yeah.
And so it's like this like small group of people.
Yeah.
And the first thing they ever made was this vaccine, like actually pulled it off.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy to see that story. But then, and then going, I mean, I think I'm more thankful that they're doing it because we need their people to not be afraid of the vaccine.
Yeah, but that's the problem is that it's not actually swaying anybody. Like, they know that they can live these two separate lives. Like, it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like, oh yeah, I can go get the vaccine, but I still like spit all these lies on Newsmax and OAN and sometimes on Fox Now, where I can tell people one thing. It doesn't matter what I do. There's no ramification to what I do because I can just tell people whatever I want and they're going to follow it.
Yeah. And what's really interesting, I wonder, like, I think is Mike Pence trying to make a move away from Trump by doing stuff like that? I felt like it was a very like, hey, look, like I'm different than him. Like I'm going to like listen to you guys because I don't know what the approval rating is of how Republicans think of the vaccine. And if that like you sway more into him as like a leader or like, oh, this is what we want, as a more responsible leader.
Yeah.
But hopefully that guy doesn't think he's going to run for anything. He just needs to take a break.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are takes and we'll see. That's why I think it's a big experiment. We're going to see what happens in the next couple weeks. Stay safe out there.
Yeah. We just got to make it a January 20th. Yeah. Because now Trump is sort of going on with like trying to invoke martial law and like use the military to go and run another election, which if that sounds very dictatorship ish to you, that's because it is. It seems like most of that is being shot down right now. Like, I just don't think that he has the support to actually go do that. But the fact that the conversations are even happening is scary, and very discouraging that 71 million or 74 million people voted in favor of a guy who thinks he can invoke martial law to erode a democracy.
Yeah, and for those of you who maybe needed to look up martial law, like I did, it's direct military control of normal civil functions or suspensions of civil law by government. So, guys, like we're talking, let's take the troops and control us so that person can be empowered. That's what it's those when you read or you hear about dictatored countries where somehow the leader continues to win elections years over years because they don't actually matter and there's control. This is what it sounds like. And to me, that is what's so scary about how close we were to those things.
Yeah.
The fact that even though nearly 8 million people voted against Donald Trump, only 46,000 people actually, if they would have changed their mind because of the Electoral College, only 46,000 people in Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, if 46,000 people would have decided to vote the other way, we would be living another 4 years of this craziness.
Well, and I don't think it's for like when people or when Donald Trump's political ads and when he during speeches was saying, and we'll do it again in 24 and 28 and 32, like that's not a joke. And we're seeing now that he would very much so be willing to invoke the military to attempt to continue down the road overturning elections for himself. So thankful for the 81 million people that showed up and voted for Biden, especially thankful for the 46,000 people in those 3 states that swung our broken system in a democratic direction.
Yeah.
It's I feel like it's been an interesting week of national news, that it has felt slow because it has gone by very slow as we've got like new information coming out about both the stimulus and this military coup have been very slow, but now end of the week, it seems like a lot of things are coming full circle. But to move us into Texas news, a couple of our leaders are under fire, and this time it's not for their bogus lawsuit. Ken Paxton is under investigation for a lot of things, but his prosecutor was announced this week, and it's not somebody that I think Ken Paxton was very happy to see be his prosecutor. He's a very generally nonpartisan, very like black and white, ethics driven type of person, and so I don't know. Maybe someone will actually face the consequences of misusing their office. I don't want to get my hopes up too high, but it seems like he might actually be in a pretty rough spot with who is going to be overseeing this case.
Yeah, and it looks like I mean, just one, Paxton has not been charged with a crime in the months since the 8 senior officials in the Attorney General's office reported him to the FBI for bribery, abuse of office, and other offenses allegedly committed in helping a wealthy donor trying to fend off his own federal investigation. But yeah, it looks like this is, I think this is just what's tough about like politics and why people don't vote. Why people don't care, because it's just abuse of power. And kudos to the people for standing up about Ken Paxton on his team. I know that had to be tough. You have your own family, your own responsibilities. So I can imagine that is difficult to do. But Ken Paxton's a bad guy, looking like he's inspired by Donald Trump without the fame. Yeah. And I think what's scary, you even talked about that. Even if Donald Trump is over, it shows that his ways work. So a lot of people are going to use those ways to continue to thrive in their own political career.
Yeah, it seems less and less like Trump was a blip on the map, and more so that people recognize that what he was doing works, that you can openly misuse your office and your power, and people generally don't care. And so it'll be interesting to see if Ken Paxton actually does face some consequences for these actions. The other piece that came out this week was around Governor Greg Abbott's reelection last year, and the money that his inaugural committee spent on his inauguration. Yeah. They spent a record-setting $5.3 million, including a whopping $1.7 million to hire George Strait and his band. A number of his top political aides got more than $1 million in bonuses. They spent like a few $100,000 on barbecue. I'm like, man, give me a few $100,000 to walk into Heim and see what happens. But it just sort of, to compare this to Governor Rick Perry's 2011 inauguration, where they spent just under $2 million, that more than that was spent just on the inaugural events. They also spent almost $1 million on fundraising costs, almost $1 million on payroll, almost $1 million in charitable donations, which we don't really know what that means or where that went. Almost $150,000 on printing supplies, and $95,000 on miscellaneous, which
who knows what
who knows where that went.
My big take here is, like, I'm not anti the inauguration part, because I mean a lot of these inaugurations on the other side is as well pretty litty, and they bring out fireworks and other bands, and hey, Leon Bridges has definitely been hired by some campaigns before, so I'm all about that. Where I'm about is the bonuses, where people are becoming millionaires off of
your tax dollars.
Your tax dollars. Like, that is, and the big part of the story here is that he has been trying to he's been fighting to show where this $5.3 million, he has been fighting to say this is private, to show you this expense line. And the fight in this case was, no, we want you are spending tax dollars and we should know where that $5.3 million. So the difference here is, it's not that, to me, the barbecue to feed the people and all, even the George Strait stuff, I'm not even worked up about either, but it's, you and your gut know you're ethically went too far on some stuff here, because you're afraid to expose it. If you felt morally okay with the 5.3 you spent on turning up for your for your government celebration or whatever, like, understand though, like, that's to me like the scary part here is, like, he ethically felt afraid, so he was spending his time and his team to block showcasing where that budget went. And now that we see, because it went to bonuses, it went to hands of your people. Again, though, I don't know. This probably doesn't make a difference in the world of politics in Texas, because we love our
Some oil people would be like, I'll just give you that $5 million next time. Let's pull a Ken Paxton. Like, just get me out of some trouble. I'll give you the $5 million. I think this, like, something that I have articulated a lot over the last year is that the widespread use of the internet is the worst invention for people like this. Like, even though they've probably, like, profited off of the internet in some way, shape, or form, like most people have, like, we're generally in a better place because of the use of the internet. I'm sure that this stuff has been happening for a couple centuries, and it's just now that information is so easy to get and readily available that people are actually diving into it. And so, yeah, it's another one of the pieces of we should have more say over what happens with our tax dollars. And generally, one, people haven't cared, and two, it's been easy enough to hide things like this, where it just sort of gets overlooked, out of sight, out of mind. Like, you don't even actively pay your dollars out of your paycheck. Like, you just get whatever your paycheck is, and that money is already taken out. But this is a guy who is also fighting against unemployment insurance, fighting against actively fighting against Obamacare. Yep. Like, this guy says that you are not worth this money, but he is worth that money. He is allowed to spend that type of money willy-nilly. Like, he doesn't need the oversight into how to spend our tax dollars.
Yeah, like, really think about, you probably had a birthday this coronavirus. You during this coronavirus year. You probably had Thanksgiving. You're going to have a Christmas, and your Christmas and your Thanksgiving or your birthday is going to be probably less because you didn't have the money to go bigger or to buy the gift that your kid really wanted or the special stuff that always makes Thanksgiving really awesome.
Yeah.
You had to downgrade, or you have to sacrifice dollars. While on the other hand, someone turns up from 1.9 million. So the separation is in 2011. It was $1.9 million spent on the inauguration. This was 5.3, right? That's nearly, it's 2.5.
Almost triple.
Yeah, almost triple. And you're over here living with we're living with a third and having to reduce. And so I don't know how this stuff doesn't fire people up.
Yeah.
We have to see the difference here.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad we talk about this.
Yeah. It's time to have influence over how your tax dollars are spent. Yeah. And I think that even the Star Telegram's editorial around Prop A over the summer, where they weren't necessarily saying defund the police, they were saying, why are we committing to something for 10 years? Goes back to this, like, why are we or a number of people voting on an issue to provide funding for 10 years over something we don't have insight into? Like, let's take this every couple of years, even annually. Like, let's actually take control of how our money is being spent in government.
This is how long a decade is, right? This is how long a decade. Snapchat didn't exist a decade ago.
The iPhone barely existed.
Alexa didn't. The Apple Watch. The world changes. Quickly. So, but they know this is their shining moment. To keep the old guard in the system, regardless if it makes horrendous impact down the road because the world is changing. This is what abuse of power looks like. So continue to vote, continue to stay informed. And speaking of staying informed, I think this is a great transition to local. Where we talk about how you can meet the 6 candidates for the Fort Worth police chief. I think this is super awesome. I'm really just loving the process that Fort Worth is putting in place to make this more transparent. I feel like that's been really cool. But the meeting will take place where you can meet the 6 candidates for the job on January 14th, 6:30 p.m. at the Fort Worth Convention Center Ballroom. You can actually also live stream it on their website and social media. It would also be on TV if you still watch cable news. And then as well as you can ask questions. So what's really cool is you can submit questions online until January 9th and really be a part of this kind of conversation. And I think this is an important way to take this energy that we had for the national election and bring it to an election where it actually impacts you more.
Yeah, and
to your local stuff.
To your point about transparency, like this is what we're talking about. Like I think Fort Worth has modeled this really well. One with the budgetary meetings that were had this year, and people really being given insight into where their money is going and how it's spent, and having a say in that. They're continuing to reflect that with this process. What if you were submitting a question? What would you ask the candidates?
I guess. I guess to me, this is a hard one for me because I don't think, I think that to me, I have been very quiet on the policing stuff, not because it doesn't matter, but I still think it's a system that is reaction to the actual problem. So policing, we need to do a better job of doing, but to me, it's the lack of opportunity for Black and brown people to economically succeed. The fact that, we hold less than 2% of business revenue, Black and brown people, in the country. Our businesses are underwater. Our opportunities to get government contracts are underwater. So to me, I feel like personally that even though policing is important, I feel like it's the shark in the water where it's easy to write news about, and is important to focus on. But the bigger picture to me is how do we proactively provide more opportunity? And so I guess my question would be around I feel like because let's say we have lack of opportunity, so more crime may go up, and crime goes up because people are trying to do or survive. And so then policing is like the medicine to that. But I think how do we solve the further solution in Fort Worth where we provide more economic opportunity? Yeah.
And there's been a lot of reporting, especially recently, about nationally the rise in homicides, in major crime. And, a lot of that is being tracked back to the effects of COVID. But generally, people are not being given the resources to overcome the need that COVID is causing. And so it's a cause and effect thing. And when you try to throw money, time, effort at the effect without changing the cause, then you're just trying to put Band-Aids on instead of getting surgery. I think for me,
what's your question?
I would ask what community policing looks like to each candidate, and how can we continue to further programs that are working well in community policing. And we've talked about the program, especially in Stop 6 around gang violence, that was adopted from a California program that has been paying a lot of dividends and working really well. So how can we continue to invest in programs like that? In the article last week announcing the candidates, there was a statistic around the number of people who know who their neighborhood officer is, and it's something like the 20% range. And I thought, I don't know who my neighborhood officer is. When somebody broke into when somebody broke into the theater back in like March or April, and I called the cops, like the guy was generally a dick, and so like I don't know who he is because he was really mean and not helpful. And so like, how do we connect communities to their neighborhood officers in a way where they feel comfortable with them, like they know how to get in touch with them? How do we change the perception of the police to the majority of people, and especially minority communities? And that's not by throwing Band-Aids on things. That's by actually driving out root causes, root issues actually creating change. So I don't know. I don't know if that's even a question that, like, if I submitted that online, would they ask that? Probably not. Like, I would imagine that they're going to throw a softball about, like, do you want to defund the police? And the police chief is obviously going to say, no, I want a job still. I still want to make $400,000. So I think that's what I would ask is how do we continue to invest in positive, root cause focused community policing programs?
Yeah. And this is, and going on my comment, I've always, like, the reason why I say these kind of things that I feel like, policing and defund the police is actually the distraction, the shark in the water, because it shows that in the United States from 2013 to 2019, the people killed by police officers is 7,663 across 2013 to 2019. That's awful. That's bad. You're 3 times more likely to be killed if you're black than white. Yeah. So totally a conversation we need to have. Now, what I wanted to make sure that I hit and make sure I hit it correctly was, black entrepreneurs make up only 2% of the business owners. But here it is. The firms only earn 0.3% of the total business receipts in our country. So opportunity and that conversation, wealth, finance, like that's the conversation they don't want us to have. I think they want to make it about policing, which that's my whole POV about it. But a question that I think I would ask is about the police associations that Brian Dixon has brought up multiple times, and the corruption there. We have we have 3 associations. It's like we have black, Hispanic, and a Caucasian, a white, like a normal one. I think that's super weird. I would love to see that to be more restructured, and then they're getting money out of that, and then
not donate their money to political campaigns.
Yeah. All that to me is, I think, the questions that I would have about how do we solve those problems.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great thing to hit on. If do you have the website in front of you? Where do we go to submit questions?
Fort Worth Connections.
So you can go there and submit questions up for a couple more weeks. And then that event will also be live stream, shown on TV, so that you don't actually have to go, but you can get to know your candidates.
Yeah. Love it. Awesome. Well, I think we're going to move into, we have the kind of just the updates around being that the vaccines are out and distributed. We also wanted to just kind of talk about JPS Hospital and the COVID-19 infections among JPS Hospital staffers, which is at John Peter Smith Hospital. 144 out of the 7,200 staff members are out of work with COVID-19. This week, 58 staff members have tested positive. The hospital, which publicized its COVID-19 data through a daily call in recording, reports 545 employees have gotten COVID-19. The record data includes only employees who were tested at the hospital's employees testing site. It doesn't include tests taken off-site, so the number could be higher. In total, there's 2,464 employees have been tested at the hospital. But I think you're also seeing not only are our cases going up, and because of that, beds and capacity, but now you're having the people who we need there to support these people now also having to take a break. And you're seeing this in teachers as well.
Yeah.
Any essential worker that we need are now having to quarantine for 2 weeks. The military, they're sitting around for 2 weeks because of they've been exposed. So I think that's, I don't know what your take is on that story, or even just, Tarrant County's cases as a whole as well. What's your take?
Yeah. We had a good friend who this week, she's a nurse in Dallas. She tested positive. And what really sucks about that right now is how close these people are to getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
Like, it's like if I got it right now, it's like, one, that sucks because of all of the time that you spent not doing anything or being careful over the past 10 months. But, you know, like, I know I'm still 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months away from getting vaccinated. Like, these people are literal, like, days, maybe weeks from receiving a vaccine, and they're now, like, getting the virus. I mean, I sort of liken this to, so, like, I used to manage in an Amazon warehouse, and I mean, ultimately, like, left that after a few years for my mental health, and we have our holiday season. Obviously, I would assume a lot of you are ordering stuff off of Amazon right now, where we would go from usually the week before Thanksgiving until like a couple days before Christmas, working 6 days a week, 13 to 14 hours a day. Like, it's exhausting. And that is what a lot of these healthcare workers have been doing for the past like 9 or 10 months. And I can't imagine the physical, mental, emotional toll that has taken on so many of these people who really haven't had a break. And part of the reason they haven't had a break is because so many of their fellow employees are testing positive that, oh, well, we need you to cover now.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine the toll that it has taken on so many of our frontline workers. And then talking about teachers, both of my sisters are teachers. One of them had a student come back from Thanksgiving with symptoms, like wealthy private school parents, like, sent their sick kid with COVID to school right after Thanksgiving. And so their whole class had to quarantine for a couple of weeks. They literally went back to school for 1 day before Christmas break. Truly can't tell you why. But, like, those decisions affect so many people beyond just, oh, I need to send my kid to school today, even though I'm a stay-at-home parent. That the teachers then have to quarantine. Who are the teachers taking care of? Who else is in their household that they're interacting with? And just the mental toll of all of this time of running a marathon for 10 months. It's so hard. Like,
yeah. I mean, those numbers are, I mean, if it depends how you break it down. Like, some of that numbers was, I said, 500 to, I mean, it's anywhere between 5 and 20% of JPS staff is like dealing with something.
Yeah.
Or, and so, like, what's troubling is that Tarrant County continues to outpace Dallas County in COVID-19 cases.
Yeah.
Despite adopting the same preventative measures, we're expected to rise by 20% in hospitalizations. And this is according to a UT Southwestern report, which says that Tarrant County we will likely see 2,500 daily cases by December 29th, while Dallas is at 1,700 cases.
Yeah, we've gotten pretty close to that number a few times.
Yeah.
But it was the podcast we did right before Thanksgiving where I said we could be in that 25 to 3,500 and like 40 deaths a day range. Like, that's right where we're tracking towards. We've got I think there's 2 mobile morgues outside of the hospitals right now. Yeah, it's just we're so close to a finish line, and instead of like sprinting towards the finish, we're like, both of our legs are broken, our arms are broken, and we're using like our chin and our upper body to try and like sloth our way or caterpillar our way to the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I mean, we'll see, and we'll continue. And I know, I don't know if we really have seen, like, I know the national rodeos kind of ended here, and left. And so I don't know if we're going to see that also, the impacts of that, because that was a majority of people outside of Tarrant County.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think that especially the stockyards area businesses, it'll be interesting to see how they're affected. They're also the ones that I would say generally are less concerned or would be less likely to take preventative measures.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting. And it leads into an article the Star Telegram had this week about Christmas travel. And a number both you and I thought was very interesting was that in Texas, about 96% of travelers will drive in a car as they travel. I don't know what the number was for Thanksgiving, but I would guess that this is significantly higher than what it was for Thanksgiving. Just really interesting that like now, whatever has sparked people now to change what they were going to do. I think that's a really positive thing and could mean that January is not as bad as December has been, because we do have more people either not traveling or traveling in a slightly safer way, not spending a few hours in an airport. And the article also says gas is 30 cents cheaper this year than it was this time last year. So if you're driving, that's a positive thing. What's your take on that? It still does say that almost 75% of those people are planning to stay with a family. It doesn't give a number on how many of those people have been quarantining for a week or 10 days before doing so.
Yeah, I mean, it also kind of hits that airline travel represents a 29% decline from last Christmas, which to me is still, I guess, I'm surprised that like it should be lower, but I mean, hey, I think that's interesting. But no, I mean, I think everyone's getting a wake up call. I mean, even just like my dad and my stepmom, I mean, lives in rural Texas, like conservative, Baptist going church goers, like very strong principled, and we're doing a virtual Christmas. Like, I think that's, you're seeing it, hit a lot of people. One of our employees, like she, has knows family who are now passing away from it, you know? So like this idea of being 24 and running around and like being, doing things, they're more thoughtful of things. And so I just think it's hitting a lot more people, and people are now seeing the consequences of it. But I don't know. I don't think that's as near as great as how popping things are. I think the carelessness is still there. It's much higher still, but we'll find out. Cause I think your whole thing about, quarantine, I don't think anyone's quarantined. I mean,
yeah, no, I generally would agree with that.
You want to move to the wins and losses?
Yeah, let's move to our wins and losses. You go ahead.
Yeah, so my win, which I'm actually was like super excited about, is the collaboration between Cook's Children and Texas A&M School of Law formed a partnership for patient families in need. So this is really cool. So, you know, it's Cook's Children's healthcare system is basically joining forces with Texas A&M School of Law, which is here in Fort Worth, obviously, and the collaboration allows for free legal services to patients and families with legal needs that directly affect their health and access to medical care. So, you know, students at the law school are able to provide services to families in need who go through challenging times at Cook's. I mean, they said one of the first people to use it is basically a lady lost her sister, and her sister had 3 kids, and one of those kids had a high need situation, and what can they do? And, you know, a student at the law school is helping this family for free and getting experience. And I think that's a super cool way that's to me what an innovative city looks like. Mm-hmm. That's what an equitable city looks like. It is being strategic on our assets that are still helpful for many people. So I think it helps the young law students, and as well, obviously, our families who could benefit from that.
Yeah, and it reminds me of a friend who is studying to become a therapist right now, and he just finished a semester of hours with families, and it's like his school partners with an organization to provide free family therapy to families that can't afford it. Like that's a net win for both parties, where one person gets the hours they need and the practice they need in training to become a therapist. The other family that couldn't afford a professional licensed therapist gets the help that they need. And I agree that I think that this is a big win and a great way to use the asset of A&M Law School to benefit families in North Texas.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be cool as TCU builds a medical school and a dental school and stuff like that. Like, I think, how can we do more of this, right? Like, I think that's, I mean, even just these kind of strategies, I think some of our best solutions that solves our problems are young people. We're able to scale young people who, one, are understanding either free work, very affordable work, but they're also very ambitious, very inspired, and want to make a difference. That to me, I think a lot of our human scale issues can come from young people. So it's just cool for us to utilize ours.
Yeah, I agree.
Got to win?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in between a win and a loss, but not somewhere in between a win and a let's see what happens next. Not a loss. But this weekend, a Tatiana Jefferson Memorial Parkway was memorialized, which is a good first step. I think one of her cousins was quoted in the article with Fort Worth Weekly saying, like, we're not done. Like, this is nice, but we ain't finished. I believe was her word for word quote. And it's a great tribute. But the next question is like, and a good question for maybe incoming police chief is, what's next? Like, how do we reform? Like, we're a year and a few months out from her murder, and generally nothing has really happened. So how do we continue to push our government and our police department to make positive changes based on what happened with her and what has happened with multiple other Black folk in the Fort Worth community? So it's obvious, it's a positive that she has been memorialized, and that's something that will live on and hopefully serve as a reminder for a long time of what happened and the need to change. And I don't know if this is a win. Part of it is what's next. How do we continue to push more action? Yeah.
No, I think that's all, I think, a good memory, a story that we should remember, as well as, like, as, you know, people grow up here and know about, I mean, the ambition that she had, that, like, she was a good, like, person, like, working hard, doing her thing, babysitting, like, that's all she was doing.
Yeah.
And so, we'll see what happens, though, from her family getting support or reform in the system. I don't really have, a loss, because we hit a lot of the losses, I think. Like, I just think the whole Tarrant County beating Dallas in cases is just a legit, like, just a great example of why I think I love this city, is because I love to see current problems, but high potential. And I just think it shows the battle of, like, Fort Worth is special because we have that don't mess with Texas vibe, but sometimes that's our Achilles heel. And so that makes us not listen to, even though we have the same preventative measures in place as Dallas, we're not doing it. We're going to bars. We're not wearing masks. Mm-hmm. And I think these are the battles that our leaders and us as a group have to fight as we stop making Fort Worth only on the national news, because we're that conservative, old, honky town that always acts like a fool. So then all the other national cities look at us as this laughing stock rather than a viable place to live. So that's probably my loss.
Yeah, that actually sparked a win in my mind. Was I think it was Travel and Leisure magazine put Fort Worth as like the 15th best city to travel to in 2021, which that's cool. That's taken a lot of effort by especially Visit Fort Worth and those organizations to make that happen. But that's a publication that is heavily trafficked, something that people search a lot about, especially since everyone has all of their time off saved up from this year. So that's a good win. Echoing what you said, like we did cover a lot of more negative things right now. I'll say a loss for me is the effect that these high numbers have on small businesses and people's perception of patronizing really anything at this point. Christmas is obviously usually a very big time of year for insert any small business that you insert any business that you enjoy supporting, but especially small businesses. And for a lot of them, that just isn't happening this year. And so Leaves did a really great list on their Instagram stories of small businesses. But if you have a business that you love, like waiting 3 or 4 months is not the time to support them. Like they're banking on the support that they need right now. If you want to see them open once you have a vaccine, like you need to support them now. And that's the byproduct of when numbers get higher, people's perception of if it's safe to patronize places goes down. They don't think it's as safe, which obviously it's not, which that's because it's not. But there's still ways to support small businesses, whether it's gift cards to go, like any of those things, trying to avoid using major food ordering apps like DoorDash and Grubhub that take 35% of those tickets. Like go order pickup, go buy some gift cards, basically spend the money you're going to spend in 3 or 4 months at that place if you have it now on that place right now. So I know that a lot of small businesses are hurting, and especially the next month, if we see another spike after Christmas, it's going to be really tough. Yeah. So continue to support your small businesses. Don't really want to lose any more of the heart of this city because we aren't able to go out and support them right now. Yeah.
Well said. And I think a good place to end and wrap it up. This has actually been a really informative. I hope you guys got a lot of stuff from this and have a safe holidays. I don't know. I guess you're sticking around for the holidays. I'm sticking around, so I'm down to do another one next week. I don't know what you're feeling.
Yeah, no, we should. Yeah,
keep going. Cool. Yeah. So we'll be doing one next Monday. But meantime, continue to do what you guys are doing, and that's making Fort Worth special. If you're listening to this, that means you're just someone who cares. You're wanting to tap in. You're a leader. You're someone who makes influence, who takes actions every day to build the future of Fort Worth. And the fact that you allow us to have some space in your life is awesome. And looking forward to continue to do this work.
Enjoy your Christmas. Be safe. Eat some good sweets. Support a small business. And we'll see you next week.
Dopamine